Thank you very much, Tom, for the very kind introduction. I'd like to say that Tom McCosker, for me, represents the epitome of what a new Puerto Rican is about. He came with all of his energy and his optimism and his innovation and started an enterprise, and today he's employing a remarkable number of people. And I just want to share something that he said to me when I was visiting him at his offices over in the Condominio Caribe, where I think he has 2 floors and is still growing. He took me to his conference room and he said, as we looked out the beautiful window view of Puerto de Tierra, Old San Juan Escambron, whatever you want to call it, he said to me, John, forget about all the tax incentives and all the other great reasons to be in Puerto Rico. I'm here because of this. And I just wanted to share that with you because I think it's relevant to our conversation over the day today. And I think it's relevant to my life. I've been here for 64 years, with a couple of years of exception, where I went up into the freezing temperatures of Boston. I can tell you that Puerto Rico is as inspiring a place to be today as it was when I was a child, when I was a young man growing up, and throughout the life that I've had here. I'm a first-generation Puerto Rican, but I want you to know that I have third-generation Puerto Rican already here, and we're still going strong. And as a matter of fact, 2 of our children are now established here in Puerto Rico. And our enterprise leaders. So once again, very glad that you were able to make it. I know you're coming from all kinds of places. I even met some folks who had flown all the way from Kansas City and just arrived last night, and they're still acclimating. Welcome to all. Again, congratulating Tom and the entire BCMG team on a very, very well-organized and well-thought-out event. I, too, would like to make sure that you do come and join us. It's going to be an absolutely fabulous dinner tonight. Now I'd like to speak to you just a little bit about our foundation. We're now in our 4th year, basically we're called Foundation for Puerto Rico because we're for Puerto Rico, because we believe in Puerto Rico, and we believe that Puerto Rico has a remarkable future. We believe that Puerto Rico is an extraordinary place to live, to work, to play. It's been wonderful for us. It's just the kind of place where, as Tom McCosker said, the magic of the place trumps all. What we believe is that Puerto Rico has a great opportunity precisely to become a powerful destination for the world. Everybody knows that Puerto Rico has been going through some very visible financial difficulties. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about my thoughts on some of the roots of that. And I'm going to enlist your support in making sure that we all have our talking points about that when we speak up in the U.S., because we need everyone to kind of be on the same page as we move Puerto Rico into this wonderful future. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to share. First of all, everybody should know that there are 8 million Puerto Ricans, okay? A little bit over that, actually. About 4.6 or 4.7 who live in the United States, and just another 3.6 who happen to live here in Puerto Rico. But we're all Puerto Ricans, and we go back and forth, and we're very closely tied. It's really just, in a way, one very important American community. And I wanted to talk to you about the relationship and interplay between those 3.6 million Puerto Ricans on the island and that growing diaspora on the U.S. mainland, because I think it's essential to understanding the economic crisis. All of us are U.S. citizens, and yet in the awkward federal statutory and juridical construct that has evolved over the last century, these citizens go from having limited rights while they reside in Puerto Rico to full rights by virtue of getting on a plane to New York, Miami, or Orlando. Great, that's interesting. This large Puerto Rican diaspora is the result of multiple waves of migrants who over generations have left the island seeking economic opportunity. Employers on the U.S. mainland have been recruiting talent in Puerto Rico. Pharmacists, nurses, physicians are being hired away in large numbers, while the Congress holds Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements well below U.S. mainland levels. As a territory, Puerto Rico has less leverage for federal grants and programs, so we see top researchers and academics routinely hired away by mainland universities. Graduates of our highly rated local engineering schools go directly to work at NASA, Silicon Valley, and other technology clusters. We at the Foundation believe that we can change that by creating opportunities here, but in fact, I'm talking a bit about some of the witting or unwitting complicity of the Congress in causing some of these difficulties to happen. Well, particularly in the 21st century, where value creation and wealth creation derive increasingly from human know-how, the harvesting of human capital by wealthier states can be a drag on economic growth for less advantaged ones. This is something throughout the world. We talk about the brain drain, et cetera. The U.S., in fact, is a magnet for talent globally, but its restrictive immigration policies have limited the impact on other countries, probably unintentionally, except for Puerto Rico, where all of us are U.S. citizens by birth and can migrate without restrictions. So over the years, the Puerto Rican economy has lost, and the U.S. has gained hundreds of thousands of educated and productive people, equating to hundreds of billions of dollars in human capital intellectual property. Putting a little of the onus there on the Congress, so they just keep that in their minds. Puerto Rico's service and consumption economy has also been, to a certain extent, gobbled up by U.S. multinationals. That's part of a globalization thing. They've leveraged powerful global and service and supply chains, and that has, of course, dramatically reduced on-island production and value creation over the many decades and decimated local employment. So I'm just trying to explain to you a little bit of some of the roots of our economic crisis. Now, according to economists, every big box store created eliminates 2.5 jobs from every big box store job created, I should say, eliminates 2.5 jobs from local economy. As a result of these efforts, of these supply chain and consumer product marketing behemoths, Puerto Rico today imports about 85% of the goods it consumes, and they are especially costly because they must be transported on U.S. flag vessels. These imports unsustainably generate annual financial outflows in the tens of billions of dollars. So there you have it in a nutshell. That's kind of maybe some of the explanations for what's going on. Here's another one. With the elimination in 1996 of the Section 936 tax incentives, which had helped Puerto Rico to become the world's largest, certainly pharmaceutical manufacturing center, and provided the capital to build the island's infrastructure, a major component of economic activity was removed. Contrary to Congress's intent, manufacturing operations mostly moved outside of the U.S., providing little, if any, benefit to U.S. Tax collections. This, in turn, set off the chain reaction of adverse events that's led us directly to the immediate crisis. So I figured I'd share with you a little bit of a history, and I'll say that our local governments have sometimes struggled to keep up with these changes, and maybe over the years they tended to view the economic downturn as cyclical rather than structural, and unable to print money. They often tried to use debt-based capital projects to stimulate economic activity. They even tried cutting taxes sometimes, believing that maybe putting money back in the pockets of businesses and citizens would grow the economy, but with 85% imports, that didn't work that well. So now, the government owes about $70 billion, and we have a shrinking population and a shrinking tax base. Okay, so we have the debt burdens and the human capital outflows and the loss of local wealth and government efficiency, and those are all significant challenges. We have to help reform local government and deal with issues of political patronage and kind of restore more professional service in the departments and agencies. But building a future for Puerto Rico requires vision beyond, and imagination, I should say, beyond merely issues of fiscal discipline, which we're adopting. In an effort that crosses political and sectorial lines, local organizations here in Puerto Rico have been coming together with the government to develop a shared vision of a coherent economic growth strategy that must align and guide our future efforts. Puerto Rico is already a major travel destination with as much as 10% or $7 billion of our GNP currently derived from visitors. However, with 1.2 billion annual travelers worldwide, that means that 99.6% of them are currently going somewhere else. By bringing only 2 million additional travelers and increasing average stays by only a couple of days, Puerto Rico can double our visitor economy over the next 5 years and create perhaps as many as 60,000 jobs, direct, indirect, inferred, et cetera. Unlike other sun and beach destinations, Puerto Rico offers a wide variety of experiences, many of which you've already encountered. They appeal to many different preferences. We have everything but winter sports. And we can fly somewhere to enjoy those. We have year-round good climate. We have nature. We have art. We have music, dance, history, architecture, and a unique and charming bilingual culture and personality. We are exotic yet sophisticated and enjoy all the benefits and protections of being under the U.S. flag. We have accessibility and capacity. Our airport receives as many as 150 flights a day from the U.S. mainland, the Caribbean, the Americas, and Europe, and we can accommodate another 9 million visitors without additional investment in airport infrastructure. We have, in fact, great infrastructure, both physical and digital, a network of freeways and gigabit bandwidth. A digital initiative is being undertaken to connect directly with hundreds of millions of potential visitors throughout the world that will put the full and diverse texture of the Puerto Rico visitor experience at their fingertips so they can imagine, plan, and transact their visits long before they arrive, managing the logistics of their stay and assuring a quality experience. We can and will become a premier aspirational destination, not only for leisure travelers, but for retirees, scholars and education seekers, health travelers, and business visitors. Excuse me. To attract innovators and investors, Puerto Rico has created tax incentives and programs that welcome top entrepreneurs from around the world, even seeding and incubating their startups. The man who's going to follow me was seminal in making this happen, and I'll speak more to that in a minute. It is part of a burgeoning ecosystem that supports a new class of young local entrepreneurs building innovation-driven enterprises. They are developing new services, business processes, digital content, software, and technology, supporting everything from the visitor economy to a tech-enabled agricultural sector. By substituting imports, adding local value, and expanding exports throughout the region and the world beyond, this 21st century export economy will ultimately generate billions of dollars in new revenue and tens of thousands of additional local jobs. Puerto Rico has major economic opportunities and significant assets to leverage. What is needed is the broad adoption of a coherent strategy to move beyond the crisis and build a future. Now, the Congress of the United States, our social institutions in the U.S., and the private sector, with a full understanding of the origin and nature of this crisis that we have historically experienced, must all play an important role in supporting apolitical and logical solutions aligned with that strategy. But a critical first step in the recovery process is allowing Puerto Rico to do one of two things: either restructure its debt using the authority granted by the Federal Bankruptcy Code, currently available to all 50 states, or to allowing its own restructuring legislation now before the U.S. Supreme Court to stand. Doing nothing, which is where we stand now after the Congress recessed for the holidays, and leaving the matter unresolved, is fiscally irresponsible and morally unconscionable. So you can tell that to your congressman. We need to remember that the Puerto Ricans, are America's authors, composers, and poets, museum curators and opera singers, academics and scientists, doctors and engineers. They are astronauts and ambassadors, Supreme Court justices and federal agency heads. They are admirals and generals, CIA, special ops, Marine Corps, soldiers and sailors who've died for America in every war and in disproportionate numbers. We must acknowledge our shared responsibility for Puerto Rico and decisively step away from the notion that helping Puerto Rico to right itself is throwing money at an underachieving or otherwise undeserving party crasher. In doing so, all of us will be rewarded by the renewed success of an island that has been part of our American nation for 117 years. So, again, this is the vision of how we need to move forward, And we need to make sure that everybody who is up there in the Congress should be aware of the fact that they can have a constructive role to play in making this happen. Now, I want you to know that I am absolutely confident that Puerto Rico is going to have a wonderful trajectory over the next decade. We have all the assets that we need and more, as I stated. All we need to do is begin to create more and more innovation-based initiatives here on the island to make that happen. And now I'm going to introduce you to the man who is personally responsible for many of those initiatives and for seeding them and for supporting them and for creating the structures. The man who has been put in charge of economic development for the government of Puerto Rico, the Honorable Alberto Baco Bagué, who as the Secretary of Economic Development has over the last several years supported and initiated so many different efforts. It's been my privilege to work with him on any number of them and to see them beginning to move into fruition. One of the things that I wanted to once again credit him with was precisely the moving forward with our Law 20 and 22 and the wonderful new Puerto Ricans that we are welcoming every day to our island. And who can help us to drive that wonderful innovation-driven 21st century export economy. So without further ado, I would like to leave you with the Honorable Alberto Baco. Thank you so much.